Alright guys, here we go. Another memoir from a notable figure. This time it's Pamela Anderson, actress, model, and media personality. It's going to be another bit of a free-form review because of how the book is formatted. In this review, obviously, I'm going to talk about my thoughts on the book. But we're going to try to explore certain themes and ideas that come up over and over again. Struggle, overcoming, tabloids, life on the edge of playfulness and courage, feminism, and the female spirit. Through the eyes of someone on the rise of the boomer and millennial generation, how was her writing style? I mean, unlike some people, Prince Harry, she actually wrote this herself. Unlike you may imagine of someone in her position, Anderson loves books, and I'm very excited to see how that love reflects in this memoir. But let's get to it, shall we? Just so you guys know, there are affiliate links in the description, and if you guys buy anything through those links, like maybe this book, then I get commission, which helps me build this channel and keep making these videos. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Sam, and I want to make self-growth normal, because people shouldn't have to look this information up. It should just be mainstream knowledge. If you agree, then please make sure to smash that like button. Those things I mentioned, like feminism and suffering and stuff like that, I really did not touch upon those as much as I wanted to in this review, and I'll explain why in this review. For instance, the beginning, I have to say, seemed a little rushed. For my fellow Audible listeners, by the way, and I almost never comment on this, so for me, this might be saying a lot, but her narration is a bit dull. So here we go with her birth. Her parents had her at 17 and 19. Yikes, young. You learn about their relationship starting out, but where it ended was a bit unsettling. Her wild imagination came from her grandfather saying, he told her that fairies and elves exist, and that trees can talk to us and each other, and that if you put a mirror in the garden, you will catch a fairy's reflection. Crazy stuff, really cool. She got her love of animals from her auntie Marlene, or at least that's where it stemmed from. Her babysitter seemed like a very twisted human being. What happened to her, I can't say she didn't have it coming. Certain moments of her childhood were kind of terrible. People who checked out chapter 2, by the way, did that actually count? Isn't it politically correct to say that it doesn't count? I don't know. You can tell she was really interested in a lot of things. Volleyball, animals, saxophone, singing, dancing, cooking. Where does it end? This is a very childlike adolescence. I mean, adolescence is childlike in its nature. It's adolescence after all, but still. You remember being younger and looking at the world with wide eyes, like anything's possible? And on the flip side, anybody watching this who has young kids, do your kids ask you like the most random questions about the most random things? I remember being younger. I was obsessed with totally random things. Dinosaurs, the ocean, space. I loved trivia and fun facts too. I would read Guinness World Records, books for fun, and memorize certain records and think to myself, I wonder what it would be like to be this person and have this ability or be at this height or weight, and what it would be like for my fingernails or my hair to be this long. I love drawing and sometimes sculpting and painting. I hope other kids are like this. When I got older, I landed myself on the piano. I taught myself for 8 years, and this isn't my memoir. So I'm just gonna shut up about all this. Overall, from her struggles combined with her interests growing up, it would make sense to say how an individual with such a mind could be some type of celebrity or influencer of some kind. Onto her romantic life, this is a quote that stood out to me. The engagement did not offer the sense of safety that I'd hoped for. Mike became jealous, wondering where I was at all times. He said I was too sexual to be trusted. Later, I found out he was having an affair with a model who was married and desperately wanted to be in Playboy. She never made it in as far as I know. Funny how these things come around. Not sure if this matters much, but although she has been on 14 Playboy covers, more than anyone in history, Pamela Anderson has been married 6 times. Just gonna throw that out there. 2 to 1 person. I also found it interesting that with the amount of disrespect she had received from the beginning of her life, that Anderson saw Playboy in LA as a fresh start. I found it refreshing, and I also really liked the way her mom reacted to it. Her view of things, though, like beauty, sounded a bit unusual, I guess in a good way. She said that when she was in LA, she never thought that she was sexy. She was just becoming a woman and felt like she was way behind others her age. She still felt like a baby, and she never felt beautiful a day in her life because she said it wasn't her place, as it felt like beautiful girls were like a different species and it didn't matter. Anderson said about this, I had stranger gifts than beauty. What? What? Who? I mean her, but what? Apparently when she was on the set of Home Improvement, and a lot of tabloids right now are talking about this, Tim Allen flashed her, this is what she says, and he said that now they're even, since he saw her naked at some point. If you look this up, Tim Allen, he blatantly denies ever flashing Anderson. I don't know. Tim Allen, to me, he seems like a pretty genuine guy. I really don't know what to say about this, but it seems like the type of rationalization that a comedian like him would make. In the midst of acting in Baywatch and modeling for Playboy, Anderson had trouble fighting her image, using the depth of her character. And you could see with everything else I mentioned why that might be troubling, right? She explained how she couldn't see how someone could go on with this image like hers being flung out into the world. No matter what she tried, the image was like bigger than her and it always won. She would joke that her breasts had a career of their own and didn't get along with her. Animal welfare was an effort she decided to pursue in order to combat that image. But I mean, it wasn't just to do that. You could imagine. Of course, she began with reaching out to PETA, and their relationship does continue to this day. But her wedding with Tommy Lee, it sounded a little, I don't know, impulsive? If you think I'm being judgmental here, by the way, check this book out. I was a little shocked at how little they knew each other and how little time they spent with each other beforehand. Of course, I was even less shocked at how long they ended up with each other for, but I was still pretty shocked at both. The whole time she was with Tommy also kind of sounded like a train wreck waiting to happen. A cute train wreck, but still a train wreck. And there isn't much more that she could have done at the point where it ended, which sucks. It does, and it is really unfortunate what happened too. At least she reflected on it at the end of the chapter, saying she was shocked they could have made more of an effort, etc. The way she fell for person after person in this book, and she only talked about 3 of those marriages to my attention. It reminded me of Ray Kroc in his memoir, Grinding It Out. What he did was he fell in love, and then years later, he fell in love with someone else. Not that Anderson did this. Kroc spent a ton of money divorcing the first person and then just left them for the second. And I believe he actually did this 2 times, falling in love and then getting married and then getting divorced or annulled, which means declared invalid, and then falling in love with someone else. And this happens every year or 2 or 3. And it seems like this is really kind of what just sort of happened with her. Every single time with one of these guys, she was like, oh, you know, we had this connection. In her words, she kept looking for harmony in inharmonious places. You know what's weird is the reason that these relationships all ended, if you stay with the other person long enough, you'll know to look for them during that time. You'll see them earlier. Nonetheless, she did sound like a damn good and caring mom. She talks about advice she would receive from other people a lot, and as well as her nonprofit work for the animals and the homeless and the refugees. I don't know if I mentioned this, but she puts different pieces of original poetry in this book, which was a very fantastic, thoughtful, and creative touch, I found. I love that, and her constant references to literature throughout all the chapters. She did a really good job with that. It added a lot of dimension to the book, and if you know this channel, you know that we love dimension in books. I also love the story behind her experience being Roxy in Chicago on Broadway toward the end, and I admire that at the end of that, she made sure to note that, you know, no one else in history had this story. I did though, and I did it against the odds. In my other video about this book, I did bring up that I can only imagine the terrible stories we will hear about her experience with the paparazzi. There weren't many, I have to say, but the ones you heard toward the beginning about Tommy Lee after they had their child were seriously just nasty. Freedom of speech is freedom of speech. Okay, but based on how celebrities describe it, it should be very illegal what these people do to the degree which they do it. Overall, I mean, you could imagine I really did like this book, but if a memoir is longer than most books, believe me, you're gonna hear about it. A lot of memoirs we review on this channel, and I only listen to audiobooks, they're 8 to 16 hours long. This one was 5.5. Despite Anderson's writing skills and the unusual addition of the author's original poetry throughout the book, the actual memoir feels unfinished, and the length or lack of length may not even be enough to show that. It just seems short. It feels incomplete, missing details, and yet not disjointed either, which is strange to me. She can be descriptive when she really wants to, but she doesn't do this about about a lot of things that would matter all that much to most readers or listeners, I don't think. I will say though that this does not make me regret bashing Prince Harry for his shameless use of ghostwriters, because I don't think Pamela Anderson needed a ghostwriter, but it did still feel incomplete. Some of her most traumatic moments were talked about so briefly that they felt inauthentic to hear the stories of. Like, yeah, I went through all that and it hurt, but It just happened. So that's really all there is to it. It obviously is not all there is to it. It can't be. And if you don't believe me, check out Know My Name by Chanel Miller. But the way she laid them out, that's how it felt to hear. And I think that feeling as a consumer myself, I would say is important enough that it's a little discouraging. And I don't know how many other reviews might mention what I just did about how it feels kind of incomplete. It was still a good memoir, but I don't know. When she described about her big break, like the $15,000 that she was offered to start modeling in LA, she could have said more than, my jaw dropped, and all I could tell them was I had to talk to my mom about it. That's it? Really? That's it? You know what people would give for a shot at that? And that's all you could have to say about the experience of being offered $15,000 to start modeling in the second most populated city in America? Mind you, this was like the 80s or 90s or something. I don't know. Quotes. Love is so short and forgetting is so long. I don't think it's that uncommon searching for something that could have been. When it comes to surgery, it's a paradox. You may gain something, but you always lose something when you mess with Mother Nature. When you have nothing to live up to, you can't disappoint. The privilege of a lifetime is being who you are. Direction 1. I recommend this book for anyone who wants to know more, of course, about Pamela Anderson. That and anyone who wants another, classical American rags to riches story from a wholehearted person. And you can't say she's not wholehearted. I mean, really. Listen to the way that she just talks about charity work, environmentalism, and refugee camps and animal abuse. Tell me she's not wholehearted. I mean, maybe she's not whole booked, but she's not wholehearted. What am I even saying? But I gotta find another time to start filming these. Jeez. Direction 2. If you like this book, check out anyone who's been watching this channel for the last maybe 6 months. Knows where I'm going with this. I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy, and Spare by Prince Harry. Also Will by Will Smith. Love Pamela by Pamela Anderson. There's a link in the description if you guys want to check it out and read the reviews. That and all the other books that I mentioned in this video if you want to check those out too. If there are any other books that you guys want me to check out and review, please let me know in the comments below. Also let me know if you checked out this book and you liked it. But hey, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, because I don't get why people watch this far into my videos and they don't subscribe. But if you have subscribed and you want to turn up just a notch and turn on that notification bell to get a notification whenever I drop new videos, that would mean the world to me. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. You can find me everywhere and I will see you then.